Hello and welcome to race number 2 of the Canada division of the 2021 HARC Can-Am Series. Today we're in Wetaskiwin, Alberta at the Edmonton International Raceway for the longest race by lap count this season. We're racing 200 laps of this quarter-mile bullring that is sure to be very busy on it with our 32 competitors. Allie Nelson from Alaska put her Denali on pole position. Her only career win is at another Canadian short track, Speedway 660 in Geary, New Brunswick, that we will visit for race number 6. 2017 champion Caitlin Sang has the outside pole. Green flag is out, and Sang has the unenviable position of trying to find a place in on the bottom of the track. Nelson is off to an early lead, and Pericles isn't going to let the opportunity slip either as he gets second place. Jeffrey Finguy is now in the top 3. Both he and his father JF started in the top 5, but JF is trapped on the outside for now. Fitzwater qualified well and is going to start roughly where he left off in Michigan, and Nelson has pulled away in the opening laps. Back mid-pack, Collins and Smith bang doors as Gallo forces it in 3 wide. Ultimately, Smith has to give way, but isn't able to find a gap in. Now Yepes looking up the inside, and Fullerton and Smith come together. Smith into the wall. Fullerton gets a little piece of that as well, and we're under yellow at lap number 5. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Finguy has been a man on a mission, tracking down Allie Nelson and just barely getting past on the way to the yellow, forcing her to the outside and grabbing the position just in the nick of time. On the restart, Finguy's 92 Valvoline Ford would get away well, but Nelson misses the apex on cold tires, opening the door for Fitzwater Sr. to take the second spot. Just behind in 4th and 5th were some of the crowd favorites. Lucas Knight from Kelowna, BC has some family in the Red Deer area just south, and hometown girl Bridget Pitt in the Kip Pitt Tribute Scheme is running 5th. We wouldn't stay green for long though. Gallo slides up the track, Lasavage into the back of her as she nearly gets into the wall, and Max Anderson squeezes it 3 wide and they all end up in the outside wall. Anderson for a spin, Nozomi around as well with William Brock. Nozomi was trying to get by as Lasavage was trying to recover, and Nozomi was sent down into Brock, who himself would get hit by Martinez and Patrick Smith. Smith would be the only car to head to pit road. This is his second front-on collision, and we're only around 15 laps in. On the restart, Finguy would not get as big of a jump, and Fitzwater would find his way to the front. He's going for 2 wins in a row to start the season, which is actually a fairly common occurrence in HARC history. Patrick Smith would pit once we get back to green. His crew tried their best to beat his hood down under yellow without losing a lap, but the 32-car field stretches around 3/4 of the track under caution, and laps are still only around 25 seconds, so it was futile. He would fall 2 laps down and come out just behind the top 3. I forgot to mention him in the track spotlight, but for Tristan Faulkner, Edmonton will be as close as he will get to a home race. The Vancouverite climbed from his 19th starting position up into the top 10 in the early going, but has since fallen to 16th, caught on the outside. Honestly, I think he's going to be grateful if he can just get through a race at this point. He flipped in the newcomers race and crashed out at the Michigan opener as well. Tristan Wilhoit would blow a tire on lap 31 and get on the binders on corner exit, causing a stack-up accident with William Brock getting turned around by Lucina Gallo. Al Lagasse, Bouchard, and third placer Lucas Knight would all clip Brock on their way by. It feels like he's been hit by every car in the field at this point. The leaders were only a couple of seconds behind the tail of the field when this all happened, and as a result, Fitzwater would put Lagasse, Bouchard, and Brock 1 lap down. On the restart, Al Lagasse would interrupt the battle for the lead, forcing his way by Jeffrey Finguy as he tries to get back to Fitzwater to get back on the lead lap. Bouchard looks very desperate as well. He takes a huge lunge down into turn 1 but manages to get it stopped. There's no lucky dog rule in HARC for the first car 1 lap down, but clearly Bouchard is not willing to play nice. Casey Lester pushes up the track and has to hesitate on corner exit, and JF Finguy would get into his left rear quarter, sending him down into the inside wall, and with no grip on his tires, he would be sent back up into JF and they would go spinning into turn number 1. It looks like Casey Lester's actually got the better of it, though JF Finguy gets hit by Tyler Thaber and Benoit Lethaire Irvine. he's got pretty significant rear end damage. Tyler Faber would actually be the only car to pit as a result of this. I suppose there's a lot more to break up front than in the rear of the car. On the restart, Fitzwater would get a big jump, but would get scared by Tyler Faber emerging from the pit lane, and it seems like that fear was justified as he gets forced up the track in turns 3 and 4. Jeffrey Finguy not going to waste the opportunity. He's going to force it 3 wide on the outside. Faber and Fitzwater get attached, but manage to get themselves disconnected before they hit the wall. But this has completely compromised Fitzwater, and he's lost second to Bridgette Pitt in the meantime. Close call racing for 5th as Lucas Knight and Fred Flintstone get together and wash up into the wall. That's going to allow Emmett Vanson to slip through for the position. To make things worse, they're now 3 abreast with the lap car of Wilhoit. They touch again, but Knight gets off him earlier this time, and they finally sorted things out. They're just barely fighting for a top 10 spot though now. By lap 61, things had settled out up front, but those at the tail end of the top 20 and further back are still putting on quite a show. Lasavage and Nozomi are racing for 19th right now, but Brock, who is a lap down, is going to throw it 3 wide. These guys are getting caught by the leaders, and they have a bit of a prisoner's dilemma. If they race less hard and work together, they could probably stay on the lead lap. But at the moment, it's everyone for themselves, and the more cars you can put between yourselves and the leaders, the better your chances are. Funnily enough, it's looking like it may be J.F. Finguy, father of race leader Jeffrey Finguy, who comes under threat first. Jeffrey Finguy actually got trapped behind the lap cars for a number of laps. This was no big sweat off his back though. He held nearly a 2-second advantage coming up to lap traffic, and his nearest competitor Bridgette Pitt has closed by less than a second. Finguy is now in the unenviable position of needing to follow Tony Tavaleris through traffic on the bottom. A big shout out to Daniel Bouchard in the 037 Oldsmobile that he has christened as the Newsmobile. The Ottawa native fell a lap down due to an untimely caution earlier, but has been persistent and is still in prime position to try and get back on the lead lap, or at the very least gain some more positions now that he has company. Tavaleris and Lester are the next cars in Finguy's sights as William Brock runs wide. Lester's going to try and take advantage. Tavaleris makes it 3 wide. Oh, this isn't going to work, boys. William Brock into the end of the access road. Jeffrey Finguy has just crashed out of the race from the race lead. Bridgette Pitt is involved in the number 77 as well, and reportedly third place Zachary Fitzwater Sr. also got a piece, as we've got a huge mess to clean up on the back straightaway. Let's take another look at this one, this time in slow motion. Once Tavaleris and Lester came into Brock, they were locked together by Lester's front clip. Brock got stuck on the worst possible trajectory and bounced back in front of Gallo, who sent Bouchard spinning and collected Yepes. Fitzwater in third got a small piece of this one, but got through relatively unscathed as the race leader. Further up, Lester would catch a bad bounce off Tavaleris while trying to recover, clipping Finguy, who almost certainly would have thought he was clear of the accident. He had just enough grip to not spin, but not enough to change his angle as he headed straight into the outside wall. It's hard to underestimate how devastating this must feel for Finguy. He has the longest winless streak in HARC at 61 races. It's literally been 7 years since his last win, and he was leading this one comfortably. Chalk this up to his streak of horrific luck, but at least he knows he's capable of winning at this type of venue, and he'll have to come back swinging at Hay River. Bridgette Pitt initially came through unscathed, but might have gotten too hard into the loud pedal trying to race Fitzwater back to the line for the lead, and smashed into Lester, sliding down into Lagacy and getting hit by Tavaleris. In all the chaos, coming back to the line, she would go for another spin under caution after contact with Finguy's limping 92, and would ultimately be ranked 8th under yellow. In all, Gallo, Brock, and Finguy went out of the race from the accident. Tony Tavaleris, Al Agassi, Diego Yepes, and Tyler Faber were the only cars to come down pit road under yellow. Fitzwater takes the restart with Emmett Vanson and Ali Nelson in tow. Tyler Faber once again comes out just in front of the race leaders, trying not to lose another lap. Fitzwater stays a little bit more patient this time and keeps the bottom. Tyler Faber washing up the track a little bit, but now he comes down the track and tries to get to pit lane. Very dangerous maneuver there, slaps the side of Zachary Fitzwater Sr., and everyone else justifiably checks up, giving Fitzwater a 1 second advantage. A couple of Canadians battling it out for fourth on track right now. Lucas Knight is from Kelowna, BC, and is trying to bring his Dodge Challenger up to the lead battle, while Spencer Fullerton is an Ontarian but was actually born in Fort St. John, BC himself. He's had a busy day already. He's had some side and front damage, and he's made incredible progress through the field to get where he is now. We haven't talked about the midfield too much in this race, simply because there hasn't been a lot of time. We're almost at the halfway point, and despite 5 cautions, we've been racing for less than 25 minutes. Thomas is holding on to a solid 8th and has Sang and Kyle Collins for company. It took less than 20 laps for the leaders to catch the tail of the field, but Fitzwater is having a surprisingly hard time following the lap cars closely or getting a move going, and this has allowed Emmett Vanson in the bright yellow number 72 to get in the picture. He turned heads at Michigan for making some very ballsy maneuvers, and although they weren't always successful, he came home with a top 5. Today he's challenging for the race win, and with relative ease, Emmett Vanson goes to the top of the scoreboard. The onus is now on him, referred to as Sir Lemons, for his characteristic yellow paint scheme to drive his way through lap traffic, but he's struggling in the same way as Fitzwater. The cars at the back of the field are lined up and actively trying to post good laps, and combined with the dirty air, it appears to be making things quite a challenge. Emmett goes a bit wide and leaves the door open for Fitzwater to retake the lead. Despite their battle for the lead, no other drivers are ready to take advantage. Pericles and Nelson are in their own race for third, and they're both behind another competitive lap car, the 04 of Patrick Smith. Vanson and Fitzwater continue their fight as the field has definitely condensed a bit. The back of the field is more racy, and more of the front runners can clearly see the top 2 in their helmet visors. Emmett takes the first position once again, but drives in way too deep into turn number 1 and ends up offline through turn 2. He might have gotten into the marbles, because he doesn't have a lot of grip into turn 3 and can't hold the bottom. Fitzwater gets to his back bumper and turns Emmett Vanson into the inside wall. And for the second time this race, the leader has crashed out. All of the top 4 are caught up in this one, and lucky Lucas Knight is going to be the new race leader. Let's take a look at a replay. Vanson washed up to the outside and ended up checking up to try and get back down to the bottom. Fitzwater caught the back of the 72 and just didn't lift. Like it or not, he was turning the 72 until the moment he swung himself down in front of the 04, and that is going to be a very unpopular move, especially since he kept going on relatively unscathed and is sitting second in a good place to continue contending for the win and holding the points lead. Further back, drivers would panic a bit coming onto the scene of the accident. Lester moved up the track and Thomas overcompensated and smashed into the 72. Thomas is out of the race, but what a heartbreak for Emmett Vanson, who will certainly have to retire as well after challenging for what could have been a first win in just his second start. He could have very well left this race as the points leader as well. There were no major shenanigans on the restart. Knight and Fitzwater stayed 1 and 2, with Fullerton racing his way by Pericles and the lap car of Bouchard to get into third. It will be a day to forget for drivers like Max Anderson, Ike Durbin, and Cassie Gertis. They've been kept busy by plenty of side-by-side racing, and they're on the lead lap and undamaged, but they can't seem to make much progress, even through heavily damaged lap-down cars like Diego Yepes, which must be a bit disheartening. Such is life on the short tracks, though, where aero matters little to none. Shout out to Nikki Martinez in 5th. She is currently the best running rookie driver on track in a top 10 that is almost completely dominated by returning HARC regulars and champions. She's made her way up from 20th and kept that Camry in one piece thus far. Behind her, she's got more of HARC's excellent women talent in Small Nozomi and Allie Nelson. Lucas Knight would extend his lead away and successfully catch and pass some lap traffic, including Al Lagasse. Lagasse wants that spot back though and gets into the 8 car, into turn number 4. I don't think Lucas Knight was expecting such a dive from Lagasse. Knight will let Lagasse have the spot off turn 2 for now, partially out of fear, I imagine. The leader's already crashed out twice. He doesn't want to add to that statistic. At the 3/4 mark with 50 laps to go, Brian Hart would get by Bridgette Pitt for 11th place. Pitt has been a bit off the pace ever since getting into the big accident a number of laps to go and seems to be just trying to nurse the car home. She'll get a chance to show off some of these defensive skills in front of her team owner Kip Pitt. She has Fred Flintstone all over her. Knight has completely dispatched his competition. He's got 6 lap cars between himself and second place. Fitzwater in second through Collins in 7th, however, are lined up nose to tail behind the lap traffic, and we might be getting set up for quite a battle. With 40 laps to go, there's no longer any time to waste. Fitzwater leans on Benoit Lefebvre off the corner, quite a gutsy maneuver, and Sang just grabbed 3rd from Fullerton. Nozomi and Martinez have traded 5th, and Fullerton would find an opening to get back into the podium positions. Knight may have used up his tires too quickly, however. He's had a hard time running the bottom, and the lap cars have formed a bit of a train and kept him from getting back to the low side of the racetrack. A gap that once looked insurmountable, 6 lap cars, an entire straightaway, is now 0 lap cars and less than a second. Fitzwater and Martinez are splitting the lap car of Daniel Bouchard, whose outright speed has made him challenging for the leaders all day. There's no question he'd be in the mix for a top 10, if not a top 5 if he was on the lead lap. Fitzwater is forced to reevaluate and Martinez goes into 4th. Excellent short track racing. Up front, Fullerton puts a nose underneath the 8 car into turn 3. These two are a bit boxed in behind the lap traffic right now, and Sang is in the catbird seat should anything happen. Lucas Knight still trying to run the outside back around Fullerton. That is futile, and that's going to leave the door open for Caitlin Sang to grab second. Sang has gotten to Fullerton's bumper, and with Ike Durbin so close, Fullerton was unable to send it into the corner to defend. And with just 20 laps to go, we have a new leader. Lucas Knight is hardly in the picture anymore. He's dropped way back behind Fitzwater. Ike Durbin would have a chance to get his lap back, and he would send it into turn number 3, pushing Caitlin Sang up the track and almost into the wall. The 86 does not look comfortable to drive all day long, and Sang was almost another victim of what seems to be one doozy of a leader's curse today. Fullerton and Sang trade the lead once again. Fullerton got his nose in on the backstretch. Sang tried to carry momentum through a wide arc, but trying to maintain a position on the top side has had a very poor success rate. Their racing has brought some other drivers back into the picture. Lucas Knight has had a bit of a second wind, and he and Fitzwater have driven themselves back up to the top 2. Sang on the low side again with Knight in tow. Side by side down the back, the caution is out. Fullerton pinches the 07 hard through 3 and 4 and gets the better run to the line, narrowly holding onto the spot by a few hundredths. With just 12 laps to go, Fullerton with the advantage. Fred Flintstone had to check up on the high line, getting Yepes out of shape. He would spin off the front bumper of Nelson, who really fell back in these late stages. No other cars were collected. Fullerton would bring the field back to the green with just 7 laps remaining. The top 3 have no lap cars separating them from one another, and therefore no excuses for not being able to go for it. 4th through 6th are separated from the top 3 by Cassie Gertis. Fullerton gets away cleanly and critically is able to hold the bottom on cold tires. Sang slips up a little but holds on to 2nd for now, and Fitzwater and Nozomi are making quick work of the lap car. Nozomi has gotten by Fitzwater and is making a charge on Lucas Knight. What a drive by the Japanese driver in these final laps. Sang is pushing one final time as we head to the white flag. She's gotten to Fullerton's bumper, but passing could be a whole nother story. Sang is looking everywhere for more grip, but ultimately, it's a cool, calm, and collected drive by Spencer Fullerton in the final laps to capture his first win since 2015 here at Edmonton International Raceway. He drove all the way from the last row on the starting grid with damage from an early accident no less to get himself into contention, and his experience really showed in the critical moments in the late stages. Caitlin Sang gets yet another second place finish. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride for the 2017 champion, who has come second thrice now but never stood at the top step of a podium in a race. Small Nozomi put it all together at the end for a very solid 3rd place finish, with Lucas Knight, who a lot of people probably would have thought had the race all locked up with 50 laps to go, getting only 4th. Nicky Martinez was the top running rookie in 5th, and Fitzwater finished 6th, but not without a lot of drama and almost certainly a penalty of some sorts coming his way next race. Nick Pericles, Brian Hart, and Kyle Collins had fairly quiet days and came home P7, P8, and P9 respectively, and JF Finguy, despite his fairly severe damage, managed to grab a top 10 to hopefully boost the spirits of the Finguy Saitomi Incorporated team out of the gutter. Fitzwater is on top of the point standings, but I imagine not the popularity charts right now. Lucas Knight is 17 points back and is the only other driver with 2 top 10s to start the year. Fullerton's win propels him all the way to 3rd in the standings, and Nozomi has had 2 good performances and sits 4th. Sang sits 5th in points and is in a pretty good place to try and defend her title. Poor Jeffrey Finguy at the bottom of the standings is the only driver with a double DNF to start the year. For our next event, the series heads due north 1,100 kilometers or 700 miles all the way to the shores of Great Slave Lake for a dirt track race at the remarkably resilient Hay River Speedway in the Northwest Territories.